Hi, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you've joined us today. We're just going to get started in a minute. I always like to start out the sessions, asking people to drop in the chat where they're calling from, where they're coming in from, and say hi. And we have had people at the previous samplers from Ireland and London, and today you'll hear, but our guest is actually calling in from Spain, which is really exciting. Um, who do we have? We have some Canada and Texas. Nice welcome. Thank you. So I am Lisa Shaughnessy, host of the Writing Retreat Sampler. Welcome to season 1, episode 4 with Kat Caldwell, host of the Write With Us Writing Retreat. So Kat, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
I am too. This is going to be a good one. I'm excited for people to learn more about this. So before we get to the interview and the slides and everything, I just want to go over, a few housekeeping items. I think everybody's found the chat box to the right. That's usually pretty simple. It shows up. And then it'll be open during the whole presentation. We won't stop to answer any questions, but if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we can, answer them at the end so you don't forget later. So let me pull up. I'm going to pull up our presentation now so we can see that. And when we do the Q&A at the end of the presentation, we'll use the Q&A function. It's just below the chat symbol. It has a Q&A bubble, so it's pretty self-explanatory as well. So like I said, I'm super excited to hear more about this retreat. And if you are too, let's see some emoji reactions, which you can find at the bottom of the screen. You can let us know how you're, feeling about that, or let us know in the chat, if you're excited to be here today and learn more about this retreat. All right. That's always good. I love seeing all the emojis float up to the top. It's just, it feels so good.
Yes.
All right. So, Kat, if you could just start, just telling us a little bit about yourself. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah. I'm Kat Caldwell. As you can see, I'm in Spain in the mountains at the moment in this lovely house that's like about 200 years old, I think. So I married a Spaniard, so I spend at least 6 weeks a year here in Spain, and so I love this country. I'm a novelist, a short story writer, and I also became a certified fiction coach last year through Author Accelerator. And I just wanted to look for a way to sort of mix my loves together. So my love of languages, my love of travel and different cultures, and then writing and stories. And so I wanted to put together a writing retreat in Spain, and I'm doing so with Marcy Renee. She and I met during COVID, and she lives here, actually permanently in Madrid, outside of Madrid, and she's lived in France and Morocco. And so she is a memoir, creative nonfiction, and children's book author. She has several books out. And she also speaks several languages and loves travel and loves Spain. And so we got together and we said, why don't we put together a writing retreat in Spain? So we did. We are going to have our first one in September.
Oh, I love that. And she sounds like a great compliment to what you bring. So between the two of you, you can really offer your guests, a lot of good information and coaching and helpful.
Yes, absolutely. We have a lot of experience between the two of us.
And as a writing retreat evangelist, this is my favorite part of the sampler interviews. I know how powerful writing retreats can be. So I want to hear more. I know writers want to hear more about the benefits of a writing retreat. So what are some ways you can think a writing retreat helps writers?
I think the number one thing is that our art form is usually done alone. And it's not always beneficial to be alone. So the writing, of course, you have to be there with your computer or your pad of paper writing, but we need a way to bounce ideas off of people, to ask questions, to get some feedback, to brainstorm. I mean, every time I'm coaching somebody individually, half the time we're talking through their story. And a lot of times the writer comes up with their own idea, right? But it just helps to be verbal. And so it helps to have those people around who have their heads wrapped around writing. They understand that as well. You're sort of in it together, you understand it, and it's a little bit different than talking to a friend who's not a writer or a partner who's not a writer. We sort of think about stories in a different way. So that's my number one thing. Like, we are not alone, and that's cool. we need to get that support.
Right. And how important, you have feedback here. How important do you think feedback is for a writer?
Um, I would say it's very important. And the problem with the way that we do things today is that you work on your manuscript and then you send it off to an editor when it's done. That's not how it used to be. It used to be like writers got to send pages to their editors, right? Like 60 years ago, 70 years ago, in the golden ages. And what's better than getting some feedback on like your story arc or a character or a climax or an ending before you go, and write the whole thing and then get the whole manuscript back from an editor saying, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. Like, it would be just so much easier if you could work through something like, how is this for a climax? Before you write it, or sort of before you really get it ingrained into that story, so that like, oh, if I change the climax, I got to change 1/3 of the story already. So for me, it's like, it's the brainstorming and the feedback that really helps move you forward in a quicker amount of time if you can get it before you're completely done.
Yeah, and I don't think the in-person benefits can be stressed enough.
Yeah.
You're talking about, I mean, I know we're talking about a writing retreat, but that's the point, the in-person feedback and brainstorming where you're just on the fly, over coffee, over lunch, walking around a town, as things come to you, you have the people around you where you can immediately start talking about that, which
Right.
kind of leads me to this one, right? Your
Yeah.
your idea. Yeah, being around creatives, right? It's
Yeah,
just
I mean, what would be better? Like, it's a lot of work to write for an hour and a half, 2 hours, right? So, maybe during our day-to-day, outside of a writing retreat, we're very proud, half an hour, hour and a half, like, that's amazing, right? But how much better would it be to be, like, in your story for a whole week, like, and you get re-energized by other creatives, you get to help others. Like, it's not just about receiving the help, right? Or receiving the feedback. It's like, yeah, I get to be involved in someone else's story and hear from them and learn from them and be like re-energized just by this creative atmosphere, like that's so cool. You get to be around people who understand your art form and like are as committed to it as you are.
right. And like you said, I just want to emphasize what you said about learning from others, because you can't just write your story and think of your story in your own head and evolve and make progress and keep getting better at writing. When you hear what other people are doing or how they've solved maybe the infamous show don't tell problem,
Right.
then you really start to just leapfrog your skills in your writing. I just love
Oh,
that part of
yeah.
it.
And how much better would it be if, there's all these words and things around floating around the internet. If you're sitting around the table and like, can somebody please explain to me show don't tell? Like, whatever it is that you don't,
Yeah.
why is it bad? Why is head hopping bad? What's the difference? And just being able to feel comfortable and asking questions like that's amazing.
Right, because even sometimes online, when we ask in groups, we don't know these people, right? So, oh, you see it all the time. I don't want to sound stupid,
Yeah.
but when you're in a group where you're getting to know people, that comfort level is there. You don't feel embarrassed or ashamed that you don't know something. You
Yeah.
feel really at ease, and just the camaraderie that comes together with that.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, segueing into the next part, though, many writers that I talk to have said they just don't know what to bring to a writing retreat,
Mm.
and I don't know. Maybe they think it's just special, or people when they think of a writing retreat, it just sounds maybe different. It's not a vacation; it's a retreat. What do I bring to a retreat? It sounds so foreign.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the number one obviously is whatever you write on, and I would bring a journal or a notebook. I am a big proponent of morning pages, of documenting your victories, and even evening pages, and Marcia's as well. And I think it's great to sort of document a different way of writing. Like you have your story writing, but then it's a different thing to write by hand your experience. Most people write their books on computers. I mean, your computer needs the adapter, of course, but it needs to sort of have the software already that you have, I would say. But I would also say bring something to dictate into, because you're really there for, I mean, our retreats are a week long, and some other retreats are a bit shorter, but maybe, 4 to 7 days at least. Um, you might not be writing all the time. And a phone is a great way, if you have your phone, but maybe you're walking around the village or walking with someone, you just sort of want to talk through something, you want to record like the ideas that you might be getting at that moment. And you can't have your computer as you're walking through the town. So I would suggest bringing that as well.
Oh yeah, I love that. I actually bought when I used to run, I bought an iWatch just for the dictation, the record app, because I'd be running and I'd be like talking into my wrist, which was easier than talking into a phone because
Yeah,
all
I
my
mean, but it's like
ideas.
the shower. Like you get the
Yeah,
ideas in the moment when you have no
exactly.
computer.
Right. So you have to have that way. Okay, and so specifically to your retreat, what would you recommend here?
Well, it says comfy clothes. I think comfy clothes, as long as you are, for you to be comfortable in the house. We are staying in an old convent, and so, it like this one, it's made out of rock. Like it can get a bit drafty, even if it's September. Even if it's warm, you're going to need a couple different pairs of shoes, some to go out. House shoes are pretty much mandatory in Spain. You don't really walk around barefoot. So you would want to bring flip flops, slippers, anything like that. And then you're definitely going to need a plug converter. Yes, you can probably find a place to buy it. It's not like we're in Toledo, it's a big city. But if you can have everything ready to go, because you are going to need your computer to not die at some point. I would even add to this, which I hadn't thought in the moment, for ours particularly, Spain is definitely a city, a country in which when you go out, you sort of dress like what my grandmother used to say for church. You don't have to dress to the hilt, but people definitely do not wear leggings to go out for dinner. Like sport clothes out for dinner. You would want a nice pair of jeans or a nice shirt or even a dress. A lot of people wear dresses. It doesn't have to be super, fabulous, but people definitely do go out a bit more dressed up. And so you're going to kind of want to have that change of clothes, and you could wear the same thing every time we go out. We go out for 2 celebratory dinners. That would be fine. But yeah, to definitely have sort of that, if you're going to be very comfy in the convent, you're going to need sort of a little bit dressed up to go out.
Okay. That's definitely good to know. And I don't know, did you send out a and I know we might get to this later, but it's while I'm thinking about it, like a pre-package or an email or something to your attendees where it kind of lists all these extra things that okay. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. We have an email that we send out. We also meet with every single one who signs up via Zoom or Google Meet, whatever they're comfortable with, and we go over the different ways to get to Toledo. And then we have a group call sort of in the works, scheduled so that we can sort of go over any of these questions. We really, especially if people haven't traveled to Spain, we don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable, so that, we don't want them to show up with only their Lululemon leggings and feel like they don't fit in. Nobody would say anything, but I know that feeling. I've been traveling for 20 years. You always sort of want to not look too touristy, right?
Right. Blend a little. Okay, that's awesome. Awesome. So we've talked about, tangible things to bring, but what about some intangibles that you would suggest?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about feedback and learning from each other. So I would just bring sort of this open mind of just wanting to hear from others, wanting to learn. You know, I mean, I think sometimes when we've all sort of had that experience in a critique group where maybe some people are a little bit over critiquey or a bit overly harsh. I really would like people to come to just ready to share their experience and how they write, and then to have the open mind that however anyone else writes their stories, that's okay, that you don't need to be the person constantly giving advice, but feedback is great, and just to have this sort of like accepting and openness, to people's readings if they want to share them, and definitely be giving at least one good thing per helpful suggestion.
Yeah, that is. And I think too, people do want to be helpful, and everybody's idea of helpful can be a little different. So
Yes, it can.
just before we get to this next one, do you have kind of rules? Are you guidelines? Are you gonna like kind of set some kind of tone beforehand with these kind of sort of guidelines for people?
Right. So when we gather on Sunday, it's kind of the day of travel, right? And to check in, you check in by 3, between 3 and 6. And so we'll be gathering, we'll be getting to know each other, having a cocktail and a dinner. And we'll really be reminding people that, while we want everyone to share and give feedback and feel comfortable with sharing, there will be certain moments in which they won't really be allowed to share. So our morning, free writing sort of prompted practices are, that Marcy runs, really, we give, we share if we want, but we are not allowed to give anything other than a thank you for sharing
Oh,
at that
okay.
point, because it's usually very, personal, and it's just sort of free writing, right? We're not looking for, oh, you should have had a comma, or that was a run-on sentence. We're not looking for that. So we just trying to get people comfortable with that. We're going to gauge, even beforehand, who's comfortable with it. I'm in with sharing at dinner time, maybe in the days afterwards of their actual project, and then reminding people that the actual coaching and writing coaching will be done between Marcy and myself and the other writer, and that's one-on-one. And so nobody has to feel like they have to, make sure that person knows about story arc or character development. Like, it's, that's what we will be talking about with them one-on-one. And so really for the feedback, if people are looking for it, will be more just like in general, like, oh, I was confused about, what you said there, or, oh, I didn't really know that that's what you wanted to say, maybe, I don't know, maybe I didn't get it, or maybe if you could clarify, just more things of like questions or a little bit of feedback, but the really story stuff will be done one-on-one with Marcy and I, and that so other people don't have to feel like they have to
Right.
be that person for them, right?
Okay, nice. I like how you have that out. And so for this, when I was going through your slides before a couple of days ago, and I really loved this. I love that you added something to leave behind. So, and what do you mean exactly by leave behind a spirit of a critique and offense? Is that kind of what we were just talking about?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
like that.
it's hard, right? Because writing, we'll have memoir writers, we'll have fiction writers, creative nonfiction writers, and it's hard sometimes to receive feedback from people. A lot of times when you've worked for hours on something, and you think that all your ideas in your head are on the paper, and maybe somebody says, "Oh, I didn't understand where the character was. Like, where are they?" You can feel really like almost personally attacked, and I get that. It makes sense, right? I've been there for sure. And so if it's really your first time ever in a group, first of all, you don't have to share your work with every. That's not a requirement in our group. But if you do, to just take a deep breath. Just because somebody sees your story or is confused about something or has, well, I don't know about this part. You are allowed to receive it, consider it, and completely ignore it. This is your story, first of all. And so if everyone comes to the table with the idea of like, I'm not going to overly critique anyone, I just want to be helpful, I want to ask questions, and I want to be quiet more than possibly critiquing. And I don't want to be offended either. So I've been in critique groups where somebody will say, well, I don't really understand the transition here. Like what happened, like it seems, and somebody will say, well, if you would just keep writing, reading, then you would know. Like it's okay if they don't understand it, because we do understand that the sharing time is a page, it's not the whole story.
Right.
And so just taking a deep breath. And we always do some sort of breathing exercise, like, okay, this is the time where we're just going to receive. You can consider and you can reject, and it's okay. But I think if everyone comes together like that, it really makes for a much more just relaxing time where really you're discussing the art instead of discussing your personal project, right? And so
Yeah.
it sort of takes away that personal attack feeling and sort of lets it be, let's talk about story. And this doesn't mean that it's attack on you as a person.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, that's all great information. And I know that people, whether they're watching live or on the replay, will really get a lot out of that. But let's get to your retreat now. I'd love to start talking about that. So, first of all, your location, Toledo, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it'll be in
beautiful.
Toledo. It is in the Castilla Leon region of Spain. It's sort of in the middle. We chose it because it has quite a nice train ride from Madrid. It's a really ancient city. It's a really cool city. I say it's one of my favorite, but I say every city is one of my favorite.
Well, I can certainly see why.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's where they used to make the swords
Oh,
back in the medieval days, and so you'll see a lot of sword shops there. It has ancient cathedrals, really small little roads, as you can see. Um, it's one of my favorite places to take people, and so I thought it would be a great place to start having a retreat.
yeah, I love it. And these are the dates. So this year it's going to be September 17th through 23rd.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And
we're staying in a convent, an old convent that's now turned into it's actually kind of a retreat center. So it's not a hotel. So it will have, it's made for groups, smaller groups to come in. But it's in the center of Spain. But the great thing of Spain, of Toledo, and one of the great things about old convents is that once you come in, like you wouldn't know that you're in the center of Toledo. So it's great that you get to step out and you can go have some jamon or some cerveza or a cafe, but you can come into the convent and it has the little plaza. And
oh,
it's like you can't even hear the rest of the noise outside because it's just this engulfing peace. And so it really does have this sort of like different world. But it's great because you can step outside if you need a break and you can go explore. It is an area in which the Arabs were for a long time before Spain. So the conquistadors, they're always fighting. But they do still have culture there. And so Marcy lived in Morocco for a long time. And so one day she doesn't know which day yet, but planning to take people to the Arab baths if they want to go, if they just sort of need a break in the afternoon. So it has a
oh,
lot of
cool.
culture. It's a very cool city.
So this picture we're looking at now, so the convent isn't in this picture. This is just a
No, no, it's
area. Okay.
hard to find it. So this is sort of the ancient inroad, right? And it's sort of
Okay.
up on a hill. There's a couple different entrances into, but these are much lovelier pictures than I had because there's just other people, photographers are much better than me.
Oh, it looks
But yeah,
amazing.
because it has sort of that river, it has two different parts of the city. And so we'll be up at the ancient part of the city.
Okay.
And then sort of the residential, as it grew bigger, it has across the river even more of the city. But yeah, we will be in the center.
Okay. Excellent. So we kind of touched on what people can expect. So some of these we kind of already did, but if you could just take us through what your guests, your participants can expect from either before and during, during the retreat.
Yeah. I mean, first, we will definitely be talking to each person individually to get an idea of how much they've traveled and how comfortable they are. Because we will be taking care of everything once they step into Toledo, but they will have to fly into Madrid or Barcelona, sort of depending on where they're coming from, and get the train into Toledo. And so we'll be talking to them. We can definitely help them with that. It's really not difficult, but I am fluent in Spanish. Marcy speaks Spanish. And so if that is something that people are not comfortable with or they don't speak the language, we can definitely make sure they have their tickets, their train tickets, and they know where to go. Once we're at the retreat, it's 7 days, and we sort of thought that that would be a great number of days because you sort of have those 2 travel days on the end, right? Where you have to check in and you have to check out.
Yeah.
So we are going to have morning writing time that is completely optional. But it is guided, and Marcy does a phenomenal job. She brings out prompts, and oh my goodness, you would just be amazed at how much it's just helpful to sort of get out your thoughts for the day, and then you can move on to writing. So each room is individual, and each room has a desk, but you also have the gardens that you can work in. There are other conference rooms that you are allowed to work in. We will have our own conference room where we will be having our one-on-one times, which you can sign up for. So you can sign up for 3 individual times that week to sort of meet with us and go over things and ask questions, just one-on-one. And so you can also go out into the city if you prefer. That you will have all the time to write that you want. And then in Spain, we eat lunch around 3 o'clock, which might be a little bit strange for some people. So we will definitely make sure that you have your snacks. Of course, everyone sort of has a snack around 11. Marcy and I will be venturing out into the city, and we'll let people know when we do that. If you want to come with us to have some tortilla de patata in the morning, if you sort of need a break, or we'll let you know where to go. But we ourselves in our conference room will also have snacks that you can come in and grab for sustenance, because I know that's a little bit strange timing for everyone. And dinner is at 9, but you have sort of a merienda around 5:30 to 6. And so there will be food there, of course, to
So
sort of
nobody's going to starve.
yeah, you can't write and not eat, right? The food is amazing. We'll talk to people if they have any allergies, but really the food, especially in the center, is a lot of pork, a lot of beef. So, there isn't as much. You can always get fish in Spain, always, always, always. So the convent does all the food for us. They cook it there.
Oh, okay.
It's very amazing. So dinner's usually at night, and that's around 7:38. We're thinking we'll have sort of a gathering and cocktail, sort of a winding down and coming together and asking people how they're doing, sort of becoming a group again. And then we'll have the optional cultural outings, but we will have 2 dinners out. So Friday night will be a dinner out in this really lovely place. It's like in our garden courtyard, and that will be our celebratory dinner. But either Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll be also doing a tapas dinner, which is very common here, where you just sort of get lots of different plates to share. And that way we'll make sure that everyone tastes everything that Spain has to offer before
Oh
they
my
get
gosh,
to them,
that just sounds
especially if
amazing.
it's their first time.
Okay, so I think I have something that weekend, but I might cancel it just so I can attend.
Next year.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about a little bit about this, and that's what I love learning about all these new writing retreats. I love talking with writing retreat hosts and having the samplers because each one offers something just a little different. So we've touched on some of these, but what else can you tell us about these? I guess the dinner, we talked about all the food and the Arabic bathhouse. So that sounds interesting. Is that close or?
Yeah, it's in the city. So there was definitely a point in history in which Christians, Catholics, and Jewish and Muslims all lived together, and Toledo is one of those places. They actually conquered Spain up into Zaragoza, the Arabs did, and so there is a lot of culture in Spain. And so I actually have not yet been to an Arabic bathhouse. I am excited to go with Marcy, but she has a lot of cultural experience with that. And so that is an optional outing, but she is yet to choose which day that we will go and experience something very interesting, even new to me. Um, Other than that, we will be around to add, anyone to ask questions or to take people and make sure that they get their coffee or their experience out in the center of the city. There's always sort of tours that you can sign up for as well. We're looking into that to make sure which ones are English speaking or whoever comes in with a different language. And then we also, within the price, provide the transport to and from the train station, so you don't have to worry that. It's literally, the moment that the train moves into Toledo, everything with us is included, except for if you go out by yourself into the city, and do sort of your own thing.
You're right. Well, that's nice that you do provide that transportation from the train station, because I
Yeah,
know
you
that's
gotta
kind of
help
the
people
the
get
part
there.
that people are like, okay, I'm here. What do I do?
Especially Spain, is like, nothing goes straight.
Right,
So
right,
it's
right.
like,
And you
I don't
have the
know, we'll
narrow
definitely help you
roads.
get to
Yeah,
the center.
yeah. That's good. I'm sure it's much appreciated. And we kind of talked before about people being hesitant to book writing retreats because it's just, they're not sure what's going to be happening. They don't know what to expect. So, take us through the first day of your retreat. I know we've talked a little bit about this, but can you just guide us? Like, they wake up on that really first morning, and what happens?
Yeah. So we want everyone to feel very comfortable. So we'll be going over the itineraries all the time. And there aren't, we decided not to make any sort of workshops. This We'll see how that goes, but you do definitely have your one-on-one time. So we'll make sure everyone knows, breakfast is between 7 and 10, and this is where you go to get breakfast. And Marcy and I will be there the entire time. Then our optional morning writing prompt session will be in the conference room or possibly in the garden. It kind of depends on how many groups are at the convent at the time, right? And so people are allowed from the moment they wake up and have their coffee, to write wherever they want. We will always sort of be there. People will know where we're going to be. So that first day, we will probably be around the convent, in the conference room, in the garden, making sure people are okay. They know where they're going. That if they want to go out, they have a map and they know how to get back. So we really want to make sure everyone is very comfortable, whatever level of travel you're at, because we know what that feels like to just feel like, I don't know where to go. And we speak Spanish, so with anything that needs to be translated. So yeah, you wake up, you come down and have coffee with us, have breakfast. You can either join us or not. You can go back to your room to write. You can bring your computer to the garden. You can bring it to the conference room if you would like. We will make sure that you know where the snacks are, where the lunch will be as well at 3 o'clock, and then when to come back around 8 o'clock to sort of put your stuff away and make sure to come back to the conference room or the garden, sort of depends on what day, and sort of rejoin us and sort of have that breather and that relaxing time together before dinner.
Oh, it's great. I love that you have a schedule, but it's not packed. You
Yeah,
have like a rhythm, like this is what's going to happen, but you're not herding people from one place to another. Like, okay, quickly be here, quickly be there. You're giving
yeah,
them a lot of free time options, and also, just group options too. I really like that.
yeah.
Some retreats try to pack too much in because I know they want to be helpful, but having this spaced out, I really like the way you have that planned out.
Yeah, we really want, I mean, everyone writes differently, right? And jet lag will hit people differently if they have it. And of course, in that time, if you want to use your one-on-one time, your 3 one-on-one times, if you want to use one of them that very first day, finding that right time where you have the energy, I think that's very important. We're all very different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is another one of my favorite topics because it's so easy to be motivated in these gorgeous, amazing settings where all we have to do is write. We don't have laundry, we don't have carpool, we don't have all of that stuff. But I'd love to hear your post-retreat tips. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I first recommend finding a group, whether it's one other writer, two other writers, whether it's on Zoom or in person, um, to keep that sort of giving and receiving spirit alive and awake. Because again, you're not going to find that from an editor unless you're willing to pay them. or, you can find it from a coach, but not everyone can afford a coach. So just finding people and maybe you'll find them at the retreat where you just really connect with, and you say, let's meet every once in a while, and I can tell you where my story's going, and you can ask me questions and sort of make sure that everything, there's no plot holes or anything. I would also, and I tell every writer this, set a time to write in your agenda, because life gets busy. Most of us don't write full time, in the sense of we don't have anything else that's going on in our lives. Most people have a second job, or they're taking care of other people. And so the tendency can be to not prioritize our writing. But I think for most people, writing it down in your agenda sort of tells yourself that this is an important thing. This is good for me. It's good for my mental health. It's what I love doing. And the more that you do it at that time, the more your loved ones around you will really take it seriously as well. And then I would say, if you really need help, don't wait. You need to get it, whether it's motivation, find a partner to motivate you to do it. Or if you are possibly a coach for a small amount of time, or possibly find an editor who will sort of read, partial parts of your story and give you, sort of motivate you back. If you need help with storytelling, I would get it right away. Like, don't wait until that editor just shreds up your manuscript, and it's like, it's so like discouraging to see more read than anything, right? So if there are tons of books, and I'm happy to tell people. I'm also open, and Marcy's open. We want to keep an open line with the people who come to our retreats. It's not hard for us to answer an email. And then we get back to the journal. So the reason I want people to bring a journal is to have, whether you join us on the morning prompt writing time, or if you just do it by yourself, but to be able to go back and read those times of what it felt like to be writing your story and immersing your story, and the victories. Like, I wrote a whole chapter today. I wrote 5 paragraphs today, whatever it is, to go back and remind yourself, I can do this. Because we can sort of go down that writer black hole of like, maybe I can't even do this. No, you can. And I really, really will be encouraging everyone every day, like, write down how you feel right now. How good does it feel to really, figure something out about your character, or that you worked and really thought about your story for 6 hours, and how great it felt, and how much better you understand the structure of it. Like, write that down in your journal so you can go back and remind yourself in those sort of darker moments of like, actually, I'm good at this. I'm a good writer, and I can do this and finish this book.
Oh, it's such a great idea. I didn't even think of that for the journal. Like, journaling in the moment, can be really cathartic and really just inspiring. But having something to go back as, quote, proof that, oh, no, I know what I'm doing, or I can do this. So I love that idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we can memory hold that, right? We can forget the good things we've done. We think about, 5 things that we did wrong, but not the 100 things we did right.
So true. It is so true.
I was like, what's up? Well, thank you again, Kat, for taking the time to be here and share your Write With Us writing retreat. We just really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I have my Instagram there. You can also find a lot more about Marcy as well in her webpage, on that that long webpage right there. I think it's shorter in the chat. Thank goodness. You'll also be able to click over just to our personal web pages and find out more about us. And there's also an invitation, if you sign up for the sort of more info, please, I want more info, where it's just 3 more emails sending you more things. There is a place where you can sign up to have a chat with us, and just ask us questions. It does not mean you have to sign up this year. But if you have more questions, if you want more information, you can sign up for a chat with us. There are no expectations. We'd be happy to do it.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Kind of good information call, just so, because like we said, a writing retreat, it's kind of a different thing. Not, I don't know. I don't want to say it's not, a usual thing, but people want to know if they're investing their time and money, but
Yeah,
well, what are they getting for it? So that's why
yeah.
I love having the sampler to tell people to, give people more information about these, and that you have an information call. That's even better because they can hear directly from you and get all their questions answered. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
I
we're
love
happy to
that.
do that. We understand not everyone has traveled to another country. We are happy to answer any questions you might have.
Oh, excellent. So speaking of questions, now we are going to need my glasses for this part. Um, we are now going to move to the Q&A part. So we do, I think we have some questions in the chat, maybe. Oh yeah, we have one from Lila. Um, but
No,
we
no arrested, nobody gets kicked out. You just might feel a bit weird, honestly, that's it.
but you use the Q&A um, function, we can invite you to the stage. Actually, Jordan in the background handles that for me. I honestly don't know how it all works, but but if you have a question, we can invite you up to the stage for you to ask the question. Okay, I'm just going to scroll through the chat because I
Mhm.
didn't. Oh, I love that. Somebody from Budapest, Hungary. Nice. Welcome. Love to have you there. Um, oh, Virginia. Hi, I'm from Virginia too. I'm from Nova, Northern Virginia, outside of DC. And Kat's, when she's not in Spain for the summer, she is also
You're
in Northern
usually in
Virginia.
DC, yeah. Yes,
uh,
yeah.
let's see what
Oh,
else
and in
we.
case anyone is wondering, it is a co-ed retreat. We do not we are two women, but it does not have to be just women. We do accept everyone has individual rooms. Um, everyone who is an adult is allowed to come, that's for sure.
Okay, so there's a question. Do you coach people who speak and write in Spanish too, or just English?
Yeah,
That's a great
I can
question.
coach people in Spanish, storytelling. I do read novels in Spanish. There is a little bit of a different structure that Spaniards are used to. But in the end, most stories need sort of the certain same things. And so I am happy to coach people in English or Spanish.
Excellent, excellent. Anyone else? Do we have any other comments or questions or things you want to say?
We also have, because I've done the Author Accelerator, I'm a certified coach through them, and I'm doing their nonfiction as well, which hopefully I will finish in the next 6 months. If somebody is looking, if they're just starting, if they haven't really put anything out, and they are looking for more structure than what I said for a retreat, we are happy to meet with them and give them that structure. So we would go through the Author Accelerator blueprint, in which you would sort of you would know where to start and you would have a next step. And so you can structure your own retreat sort of in that way of, like, if you need to know what to do every single day, we can individualize that as well.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Thank you. All right. Oh, we have another question. So, will you be hosting another retreat in Toledo in 2024?
Yeah, so our dates for 2024 in Toledo will be the beginning of October. We are also working with somebody outside of Segovia for one in April, and that one is not inside of Segovia. It would be a much more on the outskirts. It's in the forest. It's a bit more luxurious, so it's going to be a bit more expensive. It has a spa, which sounds lovely. It's
Yeah.
a really lovely place. We will still have a couple days where we'll go into Segovia. And so because of just sort of the luxury status of the hotel, it's a little bit higher status, and the trips into the city, it will be a little bit more expensive. So Toledo, with everything included besides your flights, is $17.95 if you pay in full. And the Segovia one in April will be $23.95, not including your flights, of course.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. Thanks again, Kat, and thanks to everyone who is watching either live or on the replay. I just really appreciate you supporting the Writing Retreat Sampler virtual events, and also supporting Kat and the Write With Us Writing Retreat. So I do these twice a month, and the next one is on August 2nd with Robin Henry, and her retreat's going to be in Estonia. So I hope you guys can join us. You can look on Eventbrite for to sign up for the next sampler event.
Very
And I
cool.
guess we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Bye.